Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. It's now time for, of course, the main watch and the second watch today. We will be looking at a very interesting topic in light of certain recent events in relation to the banning of persons from online social media platforms. In some cases, they are suspended. In fact, the Facebook question, which we are asking, in fact, is a little bit more expanded. It actually reads, who should have the ultimate right? Who should have the ultimate right to ban persons from social media platforms, the operators or users? And the question is why? Who should have the ultimate right to ban persons from social media platforms, the operators or users? And the question is why? Now, our guest this morning to look at this very interesting topic, we're going to be having Dr. Wayne West, who is a chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for Healthy Society. And we also have Pastor Bruce Paulson. He is a pastor of Christian Life Fellowship. Good morning, Dr. West. And good morning, Pastor Paulson.
Morning, Stokely. Morning to listeners. Morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Bruce. Morning, everyone. Yeah.
Morning to both of you. I'm hoping you can speak a little bit more directly into your phones because we are hearing you, but you both sound a little bit far away. So maybe if you could adjust yourself accordingly.
But I have a little challenge.
Okay.
Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
I'm hearing you a little bit better, sir. Yes, the Dr. West. If we can hear you a little bit better, we'd be grateful. Yeah, as best you can, sir. I know that it's not always that easy based on whatever it is you know, wherever you are and so on. Now, one of the biggest names in terms of persons who have been either banned, whether indefinitely or suspended, as the case may be, is President Donald Trump of the United States of America. And in fact, some of the persons who he's allied to have also been either suspended or banned accordingly. However, is it limited just to persons like the president? That's the question. And the moves to, do these bannings and suspensions, as the case may be, the tech companies that have done so have provided their relevant justifications for so doing. And we all know which companies these include. Twitter is on record, Facebook, a number of other companies. And there is actually a quote or a headline, which you can find online at technologyreview.com. It says, users and not tech companies. Well, to be specific with the quote, users, not tech executives, rather, should decide what constitutes free speech online. In fact, we even have recently the American Civil Liberties Union weighing in on the matter. And they seem to be very concerned about the sort of power that these companies have to do this sort of thing in terms of banning certain persons or not banning other persons. The question, sir, I'm going to start with you, Dr. West, in relation to this matter of free speech. When did we get here? When did we get here? Let's take our attention for a moment off the president. When did we actually get to the stage where we are now? Because if you can ban one particular person, can't you ban anyone, Dr. West?
Can you hear me? Am I clear? I know you said there was a problem with the song, but are you hearing me clearly?
We are hearing you, Dr. West.
Okay. I would use two concepts to explain why we are here. Now, persons may choose to give excuses for various reasons because they want to hide a certain truth. But the reason why we are here, I would use, first of all, because of cultural communism. Now, that's a term that I coined, cultural communism, but I think it explains why we are where we are. And what do I mean by that? We all know that in communist countries, which was economic communism, in those countries, The society was organized so that there was no private ownership of the means of production, and the state owned everything. So in order to control those societies, you needed to control speech in those societies. So communist countries, I would use the word now, economic communist countries, they resorted to totalitarianism, whereby they controlled how people thought. In fact, what you could think, or even if you think it in your head, you couldn't say it out in the open, because they would punish you. They could kill you or send you to some place for re-education. We have what we fail to recognize is that in the United States at the moment, that approach to organizing society, but not based on economic, but based on what we call cultural things like sexual orientation, gender identity, religion. That if you are perceived to be an oppressor in those fields, you must be shut up. And the other phrase is, as I said, cultural communism and totalitarianism. In totalitarian societies, it usually refers to the government. The government will organize itself to control not only the public sphere in terms of economics and so, but also the private sphere in terms of what you can think, what you can say. So what is unfolding in the United States, although it is coming from the social media giants, it is really a cultural pattern. I should say an ideological pattern, which, like the Democratic Party is substantially adheres to. So you would find that how many Democratic politicians have been banned on those social media platforms? You wouldn't find many, if any, because the social media platform ally themselves to the same ideology of the Democratic Party, which is cultural communism. And their approach to governance in cultural communism is to control things like free speech. And that's what is unfolding.
Well, again, I'm referring to a quote online here. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, has warned they have warned about the quote unchecked power, close quotation, of big tech companies to deplatform a U.S. president, etc. Pastor Paulson, any thoughts? Because a lot of churches have services online. In fact, that seems to be the new norm in relation to the Ministry of Health protocols in relation to, the current health situation affecting the globe. Now, yes, sir, I'm just wondering, you are preaching a sermon one Sunday, it offends whatever cultural pattern, and that offends whichever group of persons. Do you foresee the service online being banned, deplatformed? Putting that to you, sir.
Okay. Morning again, Sophie.
You're not worried about anything like that?
No, well, worried is a funny word. You asked if
you're not concerned. You're not concerned.
I am concerned. I think, in a sense, we might say it is probably likely to happen eventually. But I want to step back a little because, there is actually Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 9.
Can you hold that? Can you hold that? Can you pause one moment there, sir? We're going to go to a break and come right back. The Morning Watch will be right back.
You're listening to Love 101, the family station at 7:15 on the Sound of Love.
Love 101 invites you to listen to the NIDS Town Hall meeting presented by the Office of the Prime Minister with a presentation from the Chairman of the Joint Select Committee and Minister of Justice, the Honorable Delroy Chuck. Listen to learn about the new National Identification and Registration Bill 2020. That's the NIDS Town Hall meeting, Wednesday, January 20 at 5:30 p.m. Listen for religious news highlights and the mailbox immediately after this broadcast. It will all be here on the family station, Love 101.
In a world full of uncertainty, there's no better place to go than back to the Bible. As you listen to God's truth and discover His promises for your life, you'll be strengthened and encouraged for the days ahead. Our mission is to help you move closer to Jesus today than you were yesterday. So be sure to listen to Back to the Bible every weekday afternoon at 12:30 right here on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch. In fact, both the main and second watches today will be looking at the topic in terms of the banning of persons from online media platforms. And our guest for this segment, we have Dr. Wayne West, who is the chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. And we also have Pastor Bruce Paulson, pastor of the Christian Life Fellowship. Pastor Paulson, you were making a point and you were beginning to speak about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, sir?
Yes, okay. From 1948, Article 19 said that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. It includes the freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers.
I'm going to ask you to just pause 1 second. I'm going to ask you to just pause 1 second there, sir. And I'm not, in any way suggesting that what you're saying, is not relevant. But the part of the justification in this recent banning, in particular, for example, of President Trump, is that it is indicated that his words incited violence on the 6th of January at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. And it's alleged that some of his supporters were responsible for what took place there. The whole world saw what took place there. There are, of course, counter allegations and charges, in fact, charges on the law, persons have been charged, for example, and it's now being indicated that other persons were involved from Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and that Antifa persons went there pretending to be Trump supporters. You're hearing a lot of other things now, but regardless, it is being indicated that his words incited violence at the Capitol building on that relevant day. So that is their justification. Right. And what they also seem to be doing is saying that anyone associated with him or such incitement should similarly be banned or deplatformed. Yes. But we're looking at the discussion this morning in a more expanded way because it's not the first time persons have been deplatformed or removed or their content removed. Right. And in those cases, there was no incitement of any violence. I could go through a litany of examples. So proceed again, Pastor.
Right, which is, and Stokely, let me just say, in regard to the banning of President Trump, I am not his attorney. I'm sure that will be addressed. That is being addressed. But the issue is interesting because the tech companies took it upon themselves to become
I see. They didn't wait for a court order there.
No. They took it upon themselves to be the sole arbiter.
Yes, I noticed that.
And that is what worries me. So I cited the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Yes.
And so as a human being, that is what I am concerned as a human being.
Okay.
As a Christian, my concern has to do with the fact that we Christians are commanded to speak truth. And many of our forebears in the faith paid dearly for that freedom. They said we have to obey man rather than God. So that is a challenge we face. I mean, you mentioned that you have
to obey man rather than obeying God. Is that what
you said? Obey God rather than man. So that is going to be the challenge of the true Christian.
I see.
There is you cited the example. There are many examples of people being deplatformed, and there's this one we may know of this Nigerian student a few years ago, Felix
Ngole.
Who
Felix Ngole in front, and he lives in England.
Facebook, right? private Facebook conversation, cited his disagreement with issues related to same-sex marriage and homosexuality, and had a conversation, as people do on Facebook, all sorts of things. And he was reported, presumably by somebody who read his post. And he was not only deplatformed, but he was suspended, kicked out of university. You know, and so what you have, it is, you know, it, when you look on what is the charter, what is the basis on which the companies proceed, well, it has to be. There is no vacuum in it. There is nobody operates without a philosophy, a basic understanding, because otherwise he would still be on. The issue is that gradually, you know, a kind of way that you put the, you know, people talk about the water getting slowly warmed while you have the frog in the water. Gradually, the tech companies take it upon themselves to regulate what should be said and by whom. The worrying thing for me, as it relates to Mr. Trump, and I am not his attorney, as I said, is that how the move by the tech companies away from regulating what was said to who can speak. That is very worrying, you know, because it now becomes a thing where if somebody is deemed a threat by whatever subjective reasoning you have, then they must not be allowed to speak, and anybody associated with them is guilty by association. Right? But what we notice is that there is some kind of app running in the background, a kind of worldview which is governing how.
What is it that is running in the background, sir? What is it is running in the background?
A kind of application, a kind of worldview.
Okay.
Which says this is right and this is wrong. And, you know, because they never come out necessarily and say all of what they believe, you can't know. But we're getting more and more evidence to indicate how they go. Their view has to do with what they call a more progressive view. You know, that, you know,
which and these other views are not necessarily biblical views either, right?
Not necessarily biblical views. In fact, if you hold to biblical views nowadays, it is you're being labeled as, you know, retrograde and backward.
Understood.
The
interesting
interesting thing for me in the same Article 9 of the Universal Declaration, there's the exercise of the rights provided for in this article carries with special duties and responsibilities, and it puts two caveats. It says it may be subject to certain restrictions, but these shall only be as provided by law and are necessary for respect of the rights or reputation of others, and B, for the protection of national security or of public order, and listen to this, or of public health or morals. Morals. So the space in which we are operating is that, you know, this what we would regard as the supreme claimer of morals, the biblical worldview, is being pushed out of the public space by some of these platforms. You know,
yes. And again, by referring to this, we're not speaking about what happening concerning President Trump. That's just one issue. We're looking in a more broader way when you speak about
way, because as I said, Stokely, what happened with Trump has to be decided on. And I mean, I've read views which go either way.
Yes, understood.
The worrying thing is that the tech company takes it upon themselves to be the sole arbiter. That is the worrying thing.
Yes, understood. Now, in terms of, it seems as if you're not only speaking now, both of you actually, about the banning of a particular person or group from social media. You're also expanding the discussion to what persons are calling cancel culture. So Felix Ngoli, he was, I guess, cancelled from his status as a student at a relevant university in the United Kingdom because of what he put on Facebook. So I want you, Dr. West, to help us with the idea of understanding the difference between deplatforming someone or banning someone from social media in relation to what is the definition of cancel culture. Because I'm seeing here a piece here of a bit of a story here about someone who is a sports star or former sports star in the United States, where his insurance policy was actually cancelled because of his social media profile. I'll mention his name in a moment. Dr. West, can you help us to understand the difference between cancel culture and this whole matter of banning someone from social media or deplatforming them from social media?
Okay, you asked, let me just say quickly, you asked Pastor Bruce, Pastor Post, about whether the churches will be banned on those platforms. They will be. You know, I was banned. I'm a pro-life person, and I said that I made a comment on Facebook that blacks in America commit more abortions and have killed more blacks than the KKK ever will. In fact, since Roe v. Wade, there have been over about maybe 20 million black babies aborted. And I was banned for a day because that statement went against Facebook community standards. Now that's just a statement.
You were banned for 1 day. You were banned for 1 day.
I couldn't. Yeah, they said your statement goes against the community standards, so you can't post for a day. So that is simply a statement of fact. Okay. So you see where this is. This is totalitarianism.
It happened to you. It happened to you, Dr. West.
Yeah, it happened to me. So I'm saying that, and I wasn't inciting any violence. I wasn't telling anybody to go and kill anyone. I was merely saying that blacks need to look at their lives, put their lives in order, because blacks have killed more of their own unborn children than the KKK will kill blacks. And that statement offended Facebook, and they said you will not be able to post for a day because it goes against community standards, although it was simply a statement of fact. What is cancel culture? Cancel culture, again, like I say, is cultural communism. If the people in Jamaica need to understand anything, those of us older folks who remember communism, where you couldn't say anything that the powers that be did not agree with. If you said anything that they didn't agree with, just as Facebook banned me for 1 day for making that statement of fact, so too, they will ban you for simply making statements of fact that they don't want. And in America, they haven't reached a place where they send you to prison for doing that. But what they seek to do is to make you starve to death by setting up systems so that you cannot get a job. If you make a statement, cancel culture will say that nobody must employ you. If you had works in the past, for example, if you are a singer and you had songs in the past, they must not be played. So cancel culture is really cultural communism, punishing people who do not agree with their particular ideology.
I'm going to ask you to hold. I'm going to ask both of the gentlemen to just stay with us, but of course you're going to be with us for the entire hour. We'll be right back on the morning watch. We're going to take a break at this time.
It's not just business as usual when you have a Visa Infinite Business Credit Card from JN Bank, the card that's as forward-thinking as your business. The time by JN Bank is
7:30, folks, on The Sound of Love.
The king of all feast returns, and we have great taste expectations. We're giving you 2 sandwiches, a small fries, and a drink for just $850.
Yeah, no, my kind of deal that.
Get 2 Whopper Juniors or 2 original chicken sandwiches with a small fries and soda, or mix it up with a Whopper Junior and an original chicken sandwich with a small fries and soda for less than $1,000.
That sound like lunch and dinner.
Keep your taste expectations high.
I'm a budget nice and low.
The King's Feast awaits you right now at Burger King. Taste rules your way.
Where Grace Kennedy Money Service, sir. Connect and collect. That you say? Connect and collect. Somewhere. Any Western Union, yeah. Grace Kennedy Money Service anniversary. Grace Kennedy Money money service. I give a chance to 3 people win $1 million each. When you send or receive, you hear this, yeah man, me want win. Receive or send the money, connect and connect.
From any location or direct to bank from now until February 28th, connecting the dots for 30 years. Subject to official rules. Visit gkmsonline.com for more info. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Flow Internet plus your Flow postpaid mobile equals super savings. We're talking 50% off your postpaid mobile plan. Just add your postpaid plan to your Flow home internet so your family can share their favorite videos, stay on top of work emails, and stream their new favorite song over and over, whether at home or on the go. Now everyone can stay connected and save 50% off their mobile plan. Get the connectivity to do it all anywhere on Jamaica's largest network, Flow. Visit a store today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspaper, see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here on the Gleaner online, policeman freed in corruption case involving halfway tree bus driver. Another one here, UWI Mona cuts $1 billion in scholarships amid COVID crunch. We turn now to the Jamaica Observer online. Government cuts spending. And one very concerning story here, 14-year-old Sharice Gray of Clarendon missing. Hope they find her soon. And we have another one here, just one more. 5 firearms ammo seized at St. James Wharf. Okay, those among many other stories that you can look at in both newspapers online, and of course you can look at the printed copies. Not everything that is online is in the print version, because sometimes the stories might come in after they go to print. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question. And let me just turn to the question at this time, as I myself toggle between the technology here, which we are all using feverishly these days, listeners. Who should have the ultimate right to ban persons from social media platforms? The operators or the users? So that is the social media question, listeners. And of course, remember to take part by, of course, using the various social media that we have. You can dial us by sending your comment, WhatsApp 876-997-3125, and of course leave a comment on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica. We'll be right back.
And might I add, we're live on Facebook too, live on YouTube, so we encourage your listeners to jump on. You're heading out to the car, heading to your office. Yes, you can also join the conversation on our Facebook and YouTube pages. So comment and be a part of the discussion there. That's Love 101 FM Jamaica on Facebook and on YouTube. All right.
Love 101 invites you to listen to the NIDS Town Hall meeting presented by the Office of the Prime Minister with a presentation from the Chairman of the Joint Select Committee and Minister of Justice, the Honorable Delroy Chuck. Listen to learn about the new National Identification and Registration Bill 2020. That's the NIDS Town Hall meeting, Wednesday, January 20 at 5:30 p.m. Listen for religious news highlights and the mailbox immediately after this broadcast. It will all be here on the family station, Love 101.
There is
Love 101 invites you to listen to the 41st Annual National Leadership Prayer Breakfast under the theme, Keeping Hope Alive. The breakfast will be virtual this year with speaker Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint of the Waterford and Edgewater Circuit of Baptist Churches. The virtual event will take place on Thursday, January 21 at 7:30 a.m. and will be live on Love 101 FM and streamed on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. This broadcast is brought to you by the Tax Administration of Jamaica, working together to serve you even better. Listen for Forward in Faith immediately after the broadcast at 9 a.m. and Dollars and Cents by BPM Financial at 9:30 a.m. It's the virtual National Leadership Prayer Breakfast this Thursday, January 21 at 7:30 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
It's a new episode, and as such, we got a brand new mail to check inside a brand new episode of the mailbox. Is it better for him to have a diet, or exercise, or do liposuction? How does a man's weight affect his recreational and intimate activities? What should a man's diet look like the older he gets? Has COVID affected the food a man eats? Is he even paying attention to what he eats? Well, the only way to know is to join hosts Pastor Courtney Morrison and Kevin Bailey this Wednesday, January 20 at 5:30 p.m. for a brand new episode of the Mailbox as they take a look at a man's health, his fitness, nutrition, exercise, diet, sex, and weight. With guests, laparoscopic and bariatric weight loss surgeon Dr. Alfred Dawes and Jay Edwards, director of Spry Training Gym. That's the program hosted by men, for men, with guests who are men. The Mailbox, this and every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. here on Love 101.
Yes, strong man, integrity man, I am a man.
Love 101 FM, the family station.
Welcome back. You're tuned into the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's join Siobhan for a look at any comments, whether YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, any relevant social media handles or platforms that we're on live streaming. Siobhan.
Yes, seeing this comment here, Stokely, it says there should be no ban or no need to ban anyone from social media. Users should be matured, responsible, and professional when using these platforms. However, if they are unfairly banned, there are legal ways to deal with the situation. All right. So a comment there from one of our listeners on the text line.
Please keep the conversation going. Very interesting comment there. Well, let's continue our discussion in terms of the banning of persons from online media platforms. Our guests again, continuing from the first watch, Dr. Wayne West, chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, and Pastor Bruce Paulson, pastor of the Christian Life Fellowship. Dr. West?
Yes.
Pastor Paulson, are you still there, sir?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you?
I'm here as well.
Oh.
Great. Continue, Dr. West, because you had defined cancel culture for us just before the break.
Right. I would say that cancel culture is not limited to Christians. J.K. Rowling, the lady who wrote the Harry Potter series, she refused to acknowledge or to accept something that is not true, that men can be women and women men, the whole transgender ideology.
I heard about that.
And she was cancelled. In other words, she had certain appointments to speak and so on, and they banned her. There's a feminist, a woman from Canada, I think it is, who said a similar thing. She said a man who is a man can never be a woman, and Twitter banned her for life. So that is the culture. Now, I think in terms of solution, because I think we should, I don't want to just look quickly at the solution. I think we should look at the internet now as a utility, as a public utility. It is true at the moment, these social media companies are providing that service. But I think that just as electricity is and water are services that the public need and use in our daily lives, the internet has now become something like that. It is something that we use in our daily life to get our thoughts out. It says to me that just as JPS should not have the power to say you will not get electricity today arbitrarily, we need to set up systems whereby the internet now becomes, it could be privately owned because it could be a privately owned company like JPS. JPS is a privately owned company in Jamaica, but it doesn't have the authority to say who should get electricity today and tomorrow. So I think that what government needs to do is to arranged so that if Facebook is in Jamaica and if Twitter is in Jamaica, they are providing a service, a utility. And in Jamaica, under Jamaican law, they don't have the right to just arbitrarily ban persons like that. But freedom of speech must apply as according to Jamaican law. I think that that's the way to start approaching these things, because the alternative would be for governments and so on to get into supplying electricity, and we don't need that. All you need is to regulate the way these persons who provide this public utility provide them in the context of our nation state, for example.
Very interesting perspective there, Dr. West. You're indicating that social media platforms really are providing a service which is like a public utility. And so there should not be any automatic right of the providers of the service to ban anyone. I think that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying, Dr. West.
Yeah, that's right. They will function just like JPS. There are certain terms and conditions. They provide the service, and we people are supposed to probably pay them for the service. But the point to be made is that right now we're not paying for those services. What they are doing, they are using us. We are their product. They gather data on us and sell them to advertisers and so on. But the same can apply if they wish to function that way. If they are functioning in the state of Jamaica, in the state of Trinidad and Tobago, in Taiwan, these are the terms and conditions under which they provide this public utility. To me, that's the way to go.
Yeah, understood. And what's interesting is that while some persons are being banned from some of these platforms, others have not been banned who even say some pretty serious things, things expressing the intent for others to die, for example. You know who some of these persons are, Dr. West.
President Trump to be assassinated, and they're still on the platform.
Right. Some persons have not been deplatformed even when they have openly said who they want to be dead or who they don't want to be dead. But yet others are deplatformed. So it makes you really ask yourself the question, what is the criteria they're using? Well, Dr. West, you have been clear on what you think the criteria is. Now, it's not just about banning, though. In the U.S., for example, a former sports star and now sports commentator, his name is Curt Schilling, he had his family insurance policy canceled by an insurance company due to his social media profile. We looked in the first segment here of the program on Felix Ngole in England, who lost his place at a university because of his views as expressed on Facebook. Dr. West, followed by Pastor Paulson, any comments on that? Because this is way beyond just a banning of someone from social media here, isn't it?
As I said, we are looking at two things. We're looking at cultural communism, which is a political ideology. And for example, in Canada right now, the suggestion is that if you do not support abortion, you cannot go to medical school.
You cannot go to medical school?
No, because abortion is supposed to be a woman's right. In that political, cultural ideology, abortion is a woman's right. All right? Which is a fake right, really, because that's a different topic. But what people are seeking to advocate is that unless you support abortion and will do abortion, you should not be allowed to go to medical school. So I'm saying we are looking at an ideology. It's a communist ideology, but it's a communist cultural ideology. And you know, the Pastor Paulson was talking about the frog in the water. Because people do not appreciate the threat of this particular kind of communism, persons are not responding to it. Because in the old days we knew what the Soviet Union looked like. But the United States and Canada are the dominant forms, are the countries that really dominate the world that are advocating this kind of cultural communism. So we have shifted from the Soviet Union to places like the United States under the Democratic Party, the party that's coming in today, and Canada. They are the countries that are advocating this cultural communism. So we must be aware of that.
I hear what you're saying, Dr. West. Not saying you're right, not saying you're wrong, but we hear what you're saying, sir. In fact, since you're on Canada, before we bring you in, Pastor Paulson, since you brought up Canada, Dr. West, I'm going to segue here. The government of Canada indicated that it may have legislation shortly, as early as February or March, on what is acceptable speech on social media. Example, it would prohibit online hate and harassment. Any comments on that, Dr. West, and then followed by you, Pastor Paulson? Are you aware of that, first of all, Dr. West?
Well, I know that they actually passed a law that say that if a man identifies as a woman, you have to call him madam and so on. And they passed laws. They have already passed laws on that. This is communism. It's cultural communism. And they will be
not economic communism. You're saying it's cultural communism.
Cultural communism. So it's the same
a particular way or else.
Pardon me?
Where you have to think a particular way or else.
You better think. You have to keep your thoughts to yourself if you don't agree. And if you say anything, you will be punished because the system will not allow you to hold a job. And when it gets bad enough, they're going to sell it to the Gulag Act telephone like they send persons under the Russians. It's the same mindset.
Americans live in these countries, that's why I ask you as well.
It's the same mindset. It's just that people, like I said, I just want to repeat, do not recognize that the big...
Can you hold that thought for us 1 second, Dr. West? We're going to go to a break and come right back. I'm getting a signal. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
You're tuned to Love 101. The family station is 13 minutes to 8 o'clock.
The king of all feast returns, and we have great taste expectations. We're giving you 2 sandwiches, a small fries, and a drink for just $850.
Yeah, no, my kind of deal that.
Get 2 Whopper Juniors or 2 original chicken sandwiches with a small fries and soda, or mix it up with a Whopper Junior and an original chicken sandwich with a small fries and soda for less than $1,000.
That sound like lunch and dinner.
Keep your taste expectations high.
I'm a budget nice and low.
The King's Feast awaits you right now at Burger King. Taste rules your way.
Digicel. Some things in life are better together, like Kingston and dancehall, like Sundays and streaming football, like secret texts between best friends, like video chats with your granny on weekends, like a road trip and playing songs on load.
At Digicel, we're bringing together all the experiences you love. From latest shows, sports, music, radio, breaking news to HD video chats, cloud storage, and more. Jamaica's fastest mobile network. Digicel, better together.
New at Courts, Ready Assist, the emergency assistance service that supports you and your family when life throws the unexpected. For as low as $279 per month, get plumbing, electrical, ambulance, optical, legal, and roadside assistance coverage for 1 year. Emergency assistance is just a phone call away with Ready Assist. Available at Court stores island-wide. Call 876-926-2110 for more info. Courts, bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We're looking at the matter of the banning of persons from social media platforms online. We have as our guest Dr. Wayne West and Pastor Paulson. Dr. West, chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, and Pastor Paulson, a pastor at Christian Life Fellowship. Now, just before the break, Dr. West, you were saying you want to continue, sir, before we begin to look at how we can address all of this as believers going forward. Dr. West?
I think I made the point I wanted to make, particularly in terms of the utilities, approaching them as utilities.
Understood. Now, going forward now, how should persons respond to all of this? Because we are now in a space where virtually everyone, most persons, if it's even a small look at it, if it's even just a peek at the internet, everyone is basically on the internet, most persons at least. Any caution for the church or others who may wish to speak truth but are concerned that whatever it is that they may want to say could be censored or removed from social media? A lot of Jamaicans, we use online messaging apps. We are on the online social media platforms, etc. Pastor Paulson, your thoughts, and then Dr. West.
I would like to say, Sophie, I think Wayne's idea on regulating them as a utility is an excellent idea, actually. because what we have is that these companies, tech companies, are operating on principles which are not clear to all. And
they're operating on principles that are not clear to all. That's what you're saying.
They're not clear to all. We can speculate, and we know of some of the behind the scenes connections, but they're not clear to all. As it relates to as a Christian's use of media, I think as Christians we have no choice but to speak truth, and to speak truth. We can speak with respect, but we have to speak truth. And that's just it. When the apostles were told that they must not speak truth about Christ, they said to those in authority, they said, judge for yourself, who should we obey, God or man? What I think the danger that we should be aware of as Christians is twofold. One is that we start justifying silence.
You start justifying what, sir?
Silence, a cowardice.
Oh.
Finding justifications for being silent. That's a danger. The other thing is this whole threat of being hypocrite. Because we can pretend and let people feel that certain things are okay. So we become hypocrites. We dilute and are disingenuous about what is true. And so those are some of the dangers that I see for the Christian community. We must speak truth. We can do it with caution. We can do it responsibly. But listen, there's a saying where if you speak truth, as the Bible says, you can dress it up in clothes. You can, put it nicely. It is still going to offend. And what we don't want is for persons to feel that, well, I'm offended, therefore deplatform them. Nobody should have that power.
I see.
What I just trying to say, if I know we're coming close, and I'm not sure about my signal. One thing I just want to say is that the market, you see, is very useful here. For example, Facebook is not the only company that could provide this service that it provides. Though it is the largest and it probably gives the best. But there is another company, for example, called MeWe. It seems to me that if we find that if Facebook is conducting itself in such a way as to suppress the free speech of Jamaicans, then Facebook could be banned in Jamaica, and let MeWe and other companies that allow free speech to obtain. What it would do, you see, it would once you lay down the terms and conditions for these utilities, if they don't comply with the laws in the country, they lose their ability to operate in the country. It will force them to move away from their own political biases and controlling speech across the world, because of something like Facebook has about 1 billion users. So, conforming to the norms of the state in which they are operating. And that's the key thing I'm talking about. To conform to the norm. So they will have a choice. If Facebook doesn't want to do that, the people in Jamaica have an option to use MeWe or some other platforms that may subsequently develop.
Oh, you said MeWe, M-E-W-E. I've heard of MeWe, yes. M-E-W-E. That I know is a competitor. Or like, for example, there's a competitor to Twitter called Parler, which has been shut down now by these powerful companies. They've arranged to shut it down. But what we need is that if they do not allow free speech, other persons will start similar type companies. And if, like I said, Twitter doesn't conduct itself in a way consistent with Jamaican law and Jamaican norms, those other companies could come to Jamaica. And in other words, you use the market to rein in the totalitarianism that these people are doing. Very interesting, and it's interesting you're saying all of this because we here at Love 101, we're not saying you're right or wrong, Dr. West or Mr. Pastor Paulson, but we here at Love 101 FM, we use these platforms. We're just having a conversation on the very same sort of platforms that you're concerned about. However, notwithstanding all of this, yes, Jamaicans tend to be sort of married to certain platforms. And there are others. I've seen them. I've seen them out there, and I've even checked out a couple of them myself. Now, Dr. West, going forward, Pastor Paulson made mention of, for example, agreeing with you in relation to it being a public utility and needing to speak truth regardless. Any other cautions or any other words of advice you want to leave, Dr. West? Because apart from maybe, doing some of the things you just mentioned, what else? Because what if you have a situation where most, if not all, of these platforms begin to do the very same thing? Then what do you do? Is it that you just come off of social media altogether and sort of go back to a time past when these things didn't exist? What, if anything, would you do?
No, I don't think you have to do that. Like I said, the market will take care of it. So you said Love 101 uses some of those platforms. I would advise Love 101 to start to diversify and get other platforms and use them too. So that if any one of, well, like I said, specifically Facebook and Twitter, they are specifically left-leaning, totalitarian type platforms. MeWe is not. MeWe is free speech. So I would suggest that people in Jamaica, and I would advise all the people in Jamaica, if you're on Facebook, also join MeWe. Look for other platforms. If you're on Google, look for I think it's DuckDuckGo. Look for other platforms so that when these particular ones start shutting you down, you just simply you already have your friends and all your contacts on the other as well. The market is the best way to take care of this.
Understood. And we're not saying here on the Morning Watch that any of these platforms would be seeking to do anything to anyone in Jamaica at this time. But we hear what you're saying, Dr. West, and we have seen what has happened elsewhere. Put it that way.
Diversify.
You're saying diversify, and in fact, that's a tool.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's something that people often say in business. Diversify. Don't put all eggs in one basket. Pastor Paulson, any parting words you want to leave us before we wrap today?
Right. Well, from the perspective of a Christian using social media, I want to emphasize, speak truth as the scriptures say. Recognize that we function in an environment where people, as the Bible says, are taken captive by the enemy to do his will. So we speak truth because it is through the truth of the gospel that people can be set free. And so we seek to propagate truth, the truth of God's word, without compromise. We have no option. We find ways of doing it
without compromise.
We do it
Speak truth without compromise.
Speak truth without compromise.
Excellent way to end because we're totally out of time. I want to thank you, Dr. West and Pastor Paulson, for being with us. Thank you, our listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other interesting topical issues. And for information on how to get copies of the program, call our production department at 876-968-959-667. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to the family station, Love 101 FM. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokely Marshall, handing it back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Blair.